Okay, so you know that feeling, right? When a certain song comes on and you just have to move.
Yeah, totally.
We're going to dive into that today. Like, does happier music actually
Yeah.
make us want to move more? We've
Interesting.
got some research to help us with this.
Awesome. I'm curious to hear about this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. But before we get into all the nitty-gritty, let's define groove. Because it's not just about liking a song, right?
Right.
It's that deeper urge to actually get up and move.
Exactly.
And the really wild thing is, this isn't just some Western thing. This is global. Like, check out the Japanese term nori.
Okay.
It speaks to that same urge, that gotta move feeling. But they even break it down further, like moving vertically, jumping, versus moving horizontally, swaying.
Wow. That's so interesting. It shows how music and movement are just like deeply connected across cultures.
Totally. But this research we're going to dig into today, it takes a really cool approach to figuring out what makes us move to music.
Oh, how so?
Well, instead of using existing songs, which, let's face it, have a ton of different things going on,
Yeah.
they actually made their own music from scratch.
Oh.
I know, right? But here's the thing. They designed these chord progressions to specifically evoke either a happy or sad feeling.
So they were like musical mad scientists crafting emotions.
Exactly. But they didn't stop there. They also played around with the tempo, you know, how fast or slow the music is,
Okay.
and the syncopation, which is that, like, offbeat emphasis that makes music so groovy.
Yeah, that makes you want to tap your feet.
Exactly. And by controlling all of that, they could really pinpoint how happiness, by itself, affects our urge to move.
Ah, so they isolated the happy sounds from the beat.
Exactly.
Right.
So did those happy tunes actually get people moving?
They did. No matter the speed or how rhythmically complex the music was, those happy chord progressions, they got way higher urge to move ratings.
So are we saying happier equals groovier?
It seems that way. And you know, this is actually a pretty big deal.
Why is that?
A lot of the research on groove has focused mostly on rhythm.
Okay.
But this suggests that our emotions, they play a much bigger role than we thought.
So it's not just about the beat.
It's about how the music makes us feel.
That's really cool. But hold on, does that mean we can only groove to happy music?
Not at all. It's important to remember that this was done in a very specific way
Right, of course.
and in real life. There are tons of other things that affect our taste in music and what makes us want to move.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're not saying sad music can't be groovy. It's just that happiness seems to give it, like, an extra boost.
Exactly.
But how do they explain this link, then,
Yeah.
between, like, happy sounds and wanting to move?
Well, they had a few ideas. One is arousal.
Okay, so how does that work?
Happier music tends to be more stimulating. It kind of gets your heart pumping a bit faster.
Yeah.
And research has found a strong connection between that heightened arousal and that feeling of, I gotta move.
Oh, like when you've got your workout playlist going.
Right.
You're probably not going to choose a bunch of slow, sad songs when you're trying to get pumped, right?
Not usually. You want something upbeat, something motivating.
Exactly. So it's like our body's already primed for action when we hear those happy tunes.
Right. And there's another interesting possibility they explored. It's the link to flow state. Have you ever gotten so into doing something that, like, you lose track of time? You're just totally in the zone?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like when I'm writing and the words are just flowing, or, yeah, when I get really into a song and I just kind of forget everything else that's going on.
Exactly. That's flow state. And get this, both feeling groove and happiness are linked to it.
Really?
Yeah. So it could be that these experiences, like, boost each other. The happier the music makes us, the more we groove, the more we feel that flow, and it just makes us want to keep moving. Oh, that's so cool. So it's like this awesome cycle of, like, enjoyment and movement. I love it. But what about, like, the brain? What's going on up there when we hear these happy tunes that make us want to move?
Well, there's another piece to this puzzle, and it's called the brain's reward system.
Mm-hmm.
This system basically gets activated whenever we experience something pleasurable.
Okay.
And as it turns out, both enjoying music and that feeling of groove, they both light this system up.
So it's like our brain is giving us a little high five, like, good job, you moved your body, here's some dopamine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, this is still a super active area of research, though.
Yeah, of course, it's the brain.
Right. Scientists are still figuring out exactly how it all works.
Yeah.
Science always keeps us guessing.
Yeah.
But even with the unknowns, it's still pretty amazing to think about how all this stuff, our emotions, this flow state, even how our brains reward us, all come together to create that urge to move.
Absolutely. It really shows just how complex our responses to music are. and this incredible mind-body connection we have going on.
It makes me think about something. You mentioned the researchers created both happy and sad chord progressions.
Right.
Did the listeners actually feel happy or sad when they heard the music? Or was it more subtle than that?
Oh, that's a great question. And yeah, the researchers actually asked people about their emotion responses, and it turns out people's feelings pretty much matched what the music was going for.
Really?
Yeah. The happier the chord progression, the more, joyful and upbeat people felt. And then, not surprisingly, the sadder the chords, the more melancholy they felt.
Interesting. So even when it's made in a lab, we tend to feel what the music is trying to convey.
It seems that way.
But it makes me think about those drum-only tracks we talked about. The ones that were rated as groovy, even without any chords.
Yeah.
What were the vibes like on those?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. The drum-only tracks, they actually scored pretty high on happiness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like on par with the happiest chord progressions.
So you're saying rhythm alone can make us feel happy?
Huh. It's pretty wild, right? But here's the kicker. Those same drum-only tracks, they didn't really score high on sadness at all. They were kind of emotionally neutral in that sense.
Wait, so you can have happy groovy drums or sad groovy drums, but not sad neutral drums?
It seems that way. It's like the rhythm kind of lays down this baseline of energy, like this primal urge to just move.
Okay.
And then the chords come in. They're like the emotional color, the specific flavor of that movement.
Oh, that's a really cool way to think about it.
It really shows how much rhythm and emotion work together, to shape how we experience music.
And it makes you wonder, like, how much of our emotional response to music is, hardwired
Yeah.
based on those primal responses to rhythm, and how much is learned from our culture or experiences, even our memories tied to certain songs.
Right. That's the big question researchers are still trying to figure out. It's probably a bit of both, right? Nature and nurture.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's important to remember, too, that this study just looked at Western music.
That's true.
It would be super interesting to see if these findings hold up across different cultures and musical traditions, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, would someone who grew up listening to traditional Japanese music react the same way to those chord progressions? Probably not, right?
Who knows? But it's definitely something to think about.
It is. There are so many different ways to experience music around the world. It's fascinating. But, going back to those liking ratings for a sec,
Yeah.
you said that even though the drum-only music got high groove ratings, people didn't enjoy it as much as when chords were added.
Right. Right.
That's kind of weird, right? If it makes you want to dance, shouldn't you love it? What's the disconnect?
Yeah.
It's like if it makes you want to move, shouldn't it also be fun to listen to?
It is a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it kind of tells us that even though we're more likely to move to music we enjoy, those things aren't totally glued together.
Yeah, I get it. So there's more to liking a song than just how much it makes us want to move.
Definitely. It's like, think about watching a dance, right? You can tell if the dancers are super skilled,
Right.
but that doesn't mean you'll actually feel something.
Oh, totally.
Mhm.
Like, I can appreciate the technique, but if it doesn't resonate with me, it doesn't resonate with me.
Exactly. And in this case, it seems like adding those chords and the emotions they bring made the music more, I don't know, interesting overall. Even though those drum-only tracks got people moving, they were missing that extra oomph.
Yeah. It's like the groove gets us on the dance floor, but those emotions, the melody and harmony, that's what makes us want to stay there all night.
You got it. It's the combo, that mix of everything that really sucks us in. You know what I mean? Makes the whole experience more rewarding.
Totally. This whole conversation, it really reminds me of that saying, music is the universal language. And this research is giving us a peek into the rules of that language, the grammar, like how rhythm and emotion and even where we come from, how all of that works together.
Such a great way to put it.
So before we wrap up, anything else super surprising in this study? Any other cool nuggets you found?
Actually, yeah, they dug a little deeper into that cultural side of things, specifically that Japanese concept of nori we touched on earlier.
Right, the whole wanting to move thing, but through that Japanese lens.
Exactly. And remember how it kind of acknowledges those different ways of moving, like vertically versus horizontally?
Yep. It's like nori captures all those subtle ways our urge to move can come out, depending on, our background.
Exactly. So these researchers, they actually measured how strongly people felt nori when they listened to the different music.
No way. So did they find a connection then between feeling nori and that more general urge to move?
They did, a strong one, actually. Which is super cool because it shows that even though nori comes from Japanese culture, it might actually be tapping into a universal feeling.
Whoa. Wait, so it's like nori is a specific way that one culture understands this urge to move, but that urge itself, that's something we all feel.
That's the idea.
That is so wild. Like, it shows how a feeling can be understood and experienced so differently, but still come from the same place. I love that.
Me too. It really makes you think, right?
It does. It's like even more proof that
Yeah.
this need to move to music. It's a part of us. It's in our DNA, no matter where we're from.
Totally.
Well, this has been awesome. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for what makes me want to get up and dance.
It's been a pleasure nerding out about this with you.
But before we go, we got to leave our listeners with something to chew on. Remember, this research focused on Western music. So next time you're listening to your favorite tunes, we want you to pay attention. Do you see any parallels with what we've talked about today? Does music from your culture make you move differently? Do certain rhythms get you going more than others? Let us know. We love hearing your thoughts.
Keep on grooving, everyone.